I'm back, and today I want to talk about the lead style of Alan Holdsworth. So before I did something about Alan Holdsworth style chords, and now I thought I would do something about his lead style. And what I want to talk about is 3 note per string pentatonic scales. I don't actually know that this is how Alan Holdsworth thought about this, and I guess nobody really does, but this is something that to me sounds like him and will help you get something similar to that sound. So let's go over it. So the first thing is, I'm sure everyone knows basic pentatonics like this. A minor pentatonic, right? So pretty basic. But 3 note per string, you do the same thing, and each position I play, for example, 3 notes on one string. So here, made a little bit of a mistake there. Let me try that one more time. Like that. And do the same thing through the rest of the positions, like the C major pentatonic. Right? So I don't want to go through all of those. If you don't know those, please learn those because that'll be helpful. I'll try to leave something here so you can actually see what they are. But it's not super difficult. I think if you know all the positions as 2 notes per string, it's easy to see the next one over or backwards and see how they connect. And practicing them like that, at first you're like, what's the difference? I mean, they're all the same notes. But it actually does open up more things to you, and it helps you get more of those wide intervals, which is the sound of Alan Holdsworth, at least to me. And one of the things it lets you do is it lets you play more fourth intervals. So actually, before I go into that, let me talk about this technique, because I know some people will be like, okay, how am I supposed to do this? My hand's going to cramp up and all this kind of stuff. But what you can do is move your hand over, like, farther up. Sorry, I'm a little cramped here, so my movements are a little bit strange. But instead of having this part of your hand at the bottom of your fretboard, or from bottom of your neck, move it so this part is over the fretboard here, like this. And that'll let you stretch a little bit farther. So if I'm here, I can't really do it, like, impossible. But if I do that, I can stretch a little bit farther. I can go down to G or F or whatever. A little bit sloppy. Maybe I shouldn't go down to F, or at least not here. I need to get this stuff out of my way. Anyways, so that's out of the way. Let's talk about other things you can do to get more of the sound. So try some of the permutations. By that I mean take the, let's say, these 3 notes per strings, and let's say the first note, the second note, and the third note on a string, and see different ways you can play that. So I'm going to do this in C minor 7, or C minor, I should say, just so it's easier for me to play. So from here, I might play something like this. Let's call that 1, 2, 3. Right? But I can do other permutations like 1, 3, 2. That's more of like a Holdsworth sound, at least to me. So, but we can go and do some other ones too. I could do, for example, 2, 1, 3, or I can do 2, 3, 1, and I can do 3, 1, 2, and I can do 3, 2, 1. So those are all the different permutations, and I don't mean just on this string. You can do it on other strings too. So I could do that 1, 3, or 2, 3, 1. Or here. So I'm just moving around in positions, but I'm keeping that same pattern. And by doing that, it really helps you maybe break up that kind of sound, which is not really the sound of Alan Holdsworth. Oh, he does do that a lot. So, but by just doing that, it doesn't really sound like Holdsworth to me. So by using some of those permutations and doing that, it will help you. Another thing he does a lot is he bars, so using like a finger roll to move down to another string. So if I'm on the B string here, he might do like that 1, 2, 3, and then with his fourth finger, rolls it and goes to the E string. And And then on the first finger, may roll again to the B string. Like that. So those types of things. So working on those and coming up with little exercises will help get that type of sound also. Another thing is sweep picking. So by doing this and thinking in this 3-note per string way, but using sweeps. So if I go here and I play like C, and then F, and then G on the next string, B flat, something like that. Like that. So I'm using some of those permutations and I'm sweeping, or I can even go farther. Okay, wrong note there at the end, but you can get the idea. By doing that, you can get all sorts of new sounds, and even incorporating the rolling with the sweeping, so something like this. Like that. So you can get all sorts of new sounds by incorporating the rolling, sweeping, etc. in there. So that's another thing that I think is really cool and something to work on. Next part, I guess I should talk about different like licks and things he did. Kind of boxed in here. Hopefully, I can do this. So one thing he does a lot is he takes one of these shapes and he plays it up, and then he goes to the next string. So if you notice here, if I start on this, the F, G, B flat, the next string also play a B flat. So I'm thinking, like, I know you're probably thinking, like, why play that B flat twice? But when you do that, it creates this interesting texture that I'm sure you've heard Alan Holdsworth play lots of times. So if I do it slow, but if you do it faster, you get that sound I'm sure you're familiar with. Like that. And if you do that and you move it around, you can get lots of interesting sounds. So it's a really cool thing to do, and it's not that difficult. So let me see if I can do it. So stuff like that. So one was repeating licks, but it sounds cool. So I'm sure. I think Devil in the Hindmost he plays. Devil Take the Hindmost. He plays this a lot, but in lots of other songs he does this too. Another one he sometimes does is he'll like skip strings. So if you're not good at skipping strings, I recommend you practice it because he does that a lot. So he'll do something like this, like then skip a string, and then skip all the way to the top, and then he might slide up. So we'll try to do that up to speed. Something like that. So he does lots of those slides where he does that, but skipping a string or skipping even two strings is very common, and it gives it a really wide interval sound. It sounds really cool, and it's one of the things that when I hear that's like, that's Alan Holdsworth. Another thing, like one more I think I've heard him do a few times is playing this not using 3 notes on a string, but using 2 notes, but doing them in fourths, and then sidestepping up. So maybe some of you know this, like it's kind of a jazz concept. You play something and then you play it up just a half step to give it an outside sound. So he does this, but the reason it sounds different than lots of other people is because he's using fourths instead of like smaller intervals like seconds or thirds like a lot of people. So it sounds like almost like a computer or something. Anyways, let me try to demonstrate it. So if I do it slow, something like this. Okay, and a little bit faster. So something like that. So you can do it in many different places. I'm showing it in one place, but of course, it's better if you can do this in multiple locations and you can move up and down the neck with it to multiple positions. That'll give you the most freedom, and it sounds really cool. So on top of this, let me just end this by saying, I just tried to give you a brief taste of this. Of course, explore it yourself And one thing you can do is if you can combine this with normal like major scales, it sounds really fresh. If you just play it by itself, it still sounds fresh. I think it doesn't sound like a normal blues scale, but it doesn't sound like like other people's playing. So you can kind of get away with doing some cool things with it. But combined with normal major scales, oftentimes I think people don't hear what you're doing, so it's not obvious that you're just messing around with pentatonic scales. But you can kind of throw those in there, and it sounds really cool. People are like, what was that? Ah, that was cool. I've never heard something like that before. So I think that's one of the things with it. So it takes some practice. I probably need to practice more. I'm a little bit sloppy today, but I think it's definitely worth doing, and there's lots of cool sounds that haven't been explored with it. I think one of the things I have to thank Alan Holdsworth for is all the great ideas he gave us. Besides all the great music, I think if you really dig into his stuff, you see lots of things. And even though I don't know if he did this or not, it gives me ideas, and I think there's enough in there. Everybody can dig in there, and I'm sure people that watch this will come up with something that I'd never come up with. So we can all have our own kind of cool, unique thing. So I'll try to do more of these in the future on different subjects besides just pentatonic. But that was the first one. If you liked it, leave me a message below. Give me a thumbs up. Subscribe. And until next time, see you.